Coming up, a judge sentences 2 people for a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri.
Our Friday forecast has a little shot of cold air, but all in all, by the time we head into the weekend, it's certainly not going to feel like the end of January. We've got the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Joplin rolls out contingency plans just in case staffing shortages derail their transit services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, the weekend is almost here. Let's go to Michael.
Going to be a gorgeous one too, Tanya. It's interesting here as we sit at the 5 o'clock hour. We've got a role reversal as far as where our higher temps are from what where we usually find them. Look up here at the top. 31 already in Shootout, pair of 28s in Fort Scott and Nevada, and then cooler as we drop to the central and southern portions of the 4 states. Only 26 in Joplin, 23 in Miami, so a little bit chillier than what we had yesterday. We'll also notice too when we go to the Skywatch storm tracker throughout the morning, little bits and pieces of what look like some snow, but you have to remember our atmosphere dry, so not all of that is able to hit the ground. That even qualifies for just on the other side of I-44 up by Raleigh to St. Louis. Even if you do see anything up to the northern portion, simply going to be a random snowflake or two. Now we're calling this a little miniature cold front because it won't be as elongated nor as bad as what we had earlier this week, but we will be a little bit cooler than what we finished off our Thursday. Mostly sunny skies here throughout the afternoon hours, and then as we get ready to transition from Friday into Saturday, because the clear skies, temperatures dropping down into the 20s once again, but we are just set up for an absolutely pristine weekend. We'll get a whole bunch of sunshine throughout Saturday morning right there. We stay on the dry side, and look at the mercury begin to rise up to the point where we're going to have 50-degree temps on both Saturday and Sunday. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, speaking of Sunday, kind of a big day for Chiefs Kingdom, as well as KOAM and Fox 14. So we'll break down our NFL kickoff forecast when I see you in a bit.
All right, looking forward to that. Thanks, Michael. 2 of the 9 suspects in a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri learn their fate. A judge sentenced 23-year-old Gary Hunter Jr. to 40 years in prison and 26-year-old Deanna Parks to 30 years. Both took plea deals in the murder case of Sarah Pasco. Prosecutors say in 2020, Hunter and Parks, along with 7 other suspects, kidnapped Pasco and a second woman, drove them to a well, and then shot them and left them for dead. Now, this is that well. Pasco was shot once in the head and died. Prosecutors say the second victim hid under Pasco's body and pretended to be dead as Gary Hunter Jr. fired into the well. Authorities say that woman survived and was able to tell investigators where they could find Pasco's body. On Thursday, Oklahoma executed a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda Michaela and Felicia Suzette Smith, so there'd be no witnesses to his robbery. Michaela's sister spoke to the media after Thursday's execution.
Once doubt that justice would ever be served, and now there is none, and we can move forward. And the memories of the murder, the trial, and the years spent waiting can be replaced with happier memories of Brenda.
This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the 3rd in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections in October. Before that, executions had been halted in Oklahoma for nearly 7 years. City of Joplin hosted a public meeting to discuss contingency plans for reducing transit services if they do not have adequate staffing. There are 4 plans on the table that would reduce routes for MAPS or the trolley system. Thursday's meeting was not to choose a plan. It was to answer any questions residents may have.
So, thankfully at this point we aren't looking at we have to do any of these, but, we are certainly close enough that we need to look ahead and see if something happened and we were to lose 1 or 2 more people due to, whatever it is, even a day-to-day basis, how do we react to it so that we can still serve as many people as possible.
You can find details about the plans on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. 2 Southeast Kansas cities receive a share of $23 million in federal grants to increase public safety and health care access in the state. The Neosho Memorial Regional Medical Center will rebuild and repair 3 boiler units. with a $175,000 grant. A $35,500 grant for the Neodesha Police Department will fund new equipment and furniture for its new offices. The department's old offices were closed in 2016 due to the condition of the building. The officers are currently housed in City Hall until the completion of the new building in a few months. Missouri Governor Mike Parson is calling for increased funding for higher education in the proposed state budget for the next fiscal year. Some of that increased funding would go to Missouri Southern if the budget passed. It would give the university $30 million for a health science innovation building. It would also provide a $1.4 million increase for the school's core budget. The university calls the proposal encouraging, but points out it's just the first step in a 5-month legislative process. Staff shortages have led to a new way for Neosho High School students to get a jump start on their resume. The Neosho School District is rolling out a new program that will allow students to apply to become a part of their custodial staff. Students will be able to work up to 19 hours a week. David Allen, the custodial supervisor for the school district, says the shortage of custodial staff has impacted their ability to clean the schools properly.
Well, it just makes it harder to get the schools clean and disinfected like they should be. But with this new program on hiring students, I hope to have more hands to help get our schools clean and safe.
So far, 4 students have applied to the program. The custodial team is currently 4 people short. That's great. Well, another school shortage brought on by the pandemic, not enough substitute teachers. It's become so dire, some schools have struggled to stay open. In Wichita, Kansas, a construction company is stepping in to help. The CEO of Hutton Construction says the plan is to give 5 extra PTO days to all 275 team members to use to sub or para in classrooms through the end of the year.
Our schools were just having a really hard time keeping teachers in the classroom, and we thought that maybe that's something that we could help with.
Some employees are already excited about the opportunity and are getting started with the substituting process. They'll get their regular salary pay on top of pay they earn while subbing. It's 5:07.
Mid to high 20s for the most part. We've got 130 up there. That's in Shootout, pushing up to 31. And by the time we get to this afternoon, we'll go high 30s, low 40s, so just a touch bit cooler than what we had yesterday. We'll actually have more sunshine earlier than what we had yesterday as well. Great looking weekend. We'll get up to 54 on Saturday. Then we were talking about what transpires on Sunday. Well, the Midwest is going to remain clear. What's it going to be at Arrowhead Stadium, say kickoff at 2 o'clock right here on KOAM? We're looking at 41 degrees, clear skies, and no wind. Then after the Bengals and Chiefs conclude, we transition out to the West Coast over the mountains with some cloud cover. And it looks like a comfortable 63 degrees in LA. You can catch the 49ers and Rams on Fox 14. You'll notice those wind arrows. I have those isolated at 10 plus miles per hour. So a little bit of a west-east push there coming in off the Pacific.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the annual Cannonball Clash squared off on the mat last night with Fort Scott right in the thick of it. We'll let you know how the defending champs did. Plus, one area school takes a novel way of tackling its staffing shortage, hiring students. And we want to know if you had a job while attending school. And eradication of the COVID-19 virus may not be the future, but experts look to turn the crisis into something more manageable. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
At Shields Institute, it's a Start Something New sales event.
Off-road dealer. See our Facebook page for more details.
Pittsburgh State Gorillas back on the floor last night, had a doubleheader at home against Northeastern State. On the women's side, Gorillas aiming to sweep the season series over the Riverhawks after beating them in Tahlequah. That was back in December. Pitt State entering the night 6-6 in the MIAA, 11-7 overall. We'll pick it up in the second quarter. Sydney Crane, boom, 7-0 run for Pitt State to open that second quarter. Final seconds of the first half, Aaron Davis. Nice little pump fake, launches from 3. Gorillas go up 28-24 at halftime. Things get interesting from there. PSU up 1 with 30 seconds left. Malia Langstaff, she had 26 and 10 rebounds. Northeastern up 25 seconds to go. Amanda David draws it up. Tristan Gegg, bucket, foul. She had 14 in the fourth quarter, finished with 24. Free throws put the Gorillas back up 2. Under 10 seconds left. Ashton Hackler off the glass. That ties it. Gorillas one more chance with 2 seconds left. Inbound to Jamie Jackson. Launch it, Jamie! Winner, winner. As time expires, Jackson off the glass for the win. Gorillas win it 71-69. Here's the hero for Pittsburgh State.
We were trying to get a post up on the block to either me or Holmes and try to get a quick shot in the paint, but they kind of knew what we were going to do and they ended up doubling down there. So I kind of just popped out and tried to make something happen at the end. It felt really good, and then I saw my whole team swarming at me, which is probably the best feeling.
You know, it's great to see your kids make plays. I mean, Jamie's play at the end was just a player making a play. She was pretty excited, I think, and everybody being excited for her. Nobody cares at that moment. Nobody cares. We just want to win the game.
More fun, Jamie Jackson's fist pump or her doing the worm after the game. That was great. Men's game, Gorillas trying to snap a 5-game losing streak. Slow start to the game, but Cam Hoffner working down low gets the Gorillas on the board. Other end, Northeastern State takes their first lead of the game. Obi Agu off the window, and then off the bench, here comes Ryan Pippins. Came up big for PSU. Look at that jump shot. High archer scores a team high 16. Gorillas almost erased a 17-point halftime deficit, but your operative word is almost, as Northeastern State wins it 60-54. Fort Scott and Frontenac Wrestling met last night for the annual Cannonball Clash. Raiders and Tigers competing in a triangular with Joplin. This all took place in Frontenac. You have the two SEK rivals finishing up the night. Fort Scott aiming to take the trophy home for the second straight season, while Frontenac trying for their 5th win in 6 years. For Fort Scott, Jasper Allison ranked 3rd in 4A at 120. Big takedown wins by fall. Then freshman Brody Gomez also ranked class 126. He gets it done quickly, finishes it off in 21 seconds. Fort Scott out to a huge early lead. Then Frontenac climbs back in it behind their two best. Dawson Lapping, #1 in the state in 4A, undefeated, and he continues to take care of business. And you got Justice Compton. He's #1 at 170. He wins by fall. So at this point, it's neck and neck. You can feel the energy in the gym just tense up. First-year wrestler Blake Tomasi. First year, remember that. Gets the pin in the period. Fort Scott wins for the 2nd year in a row, 45-27.
Sometimes when you're not the most talented team, you have to outwork your opponents, and Keith always has a team that is going to be in top-notch shape, and we knew we had to step it up and keep some matches close and win some matches late. Wrestling's so much of an individual sport, so when you can make something so team-involved and everybody gets excited and everybody wants everybody to win and there's not any selfishness, it's really good for our sport.
Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, American athletes taking off for Beijing with Olympic dreams, and the presence of COVID a very real part of their sports. And a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Here at Abernathy Roofing and Construction, we have been caring for the needs of our customers.
Just rolled past 5:17, still a great time for weather on the 7s as we open up our daily almanac on this Friday. And yesterday topped out at 45 degrees, so right on par with the end of January. A little bit cooler by the time we get to the end of the day. I'll tell you what, back that up. This is what we need. Old drought monitor is going to come back and get us. We keep that up. And hopefully when we get it, we can just keep it as rain, but we are in dire need of some precipitation. None today, though, and none over the weekend, so don't worry about your plans being foiled by precipitation. 26 degrees right now, over 7th and Rangeline. Nice thing is, with that calm wind, we don't have any wind chill in effect. 31 is our high point right now in Shootout. We are as low as 22 in northeast Oklahoma, 27 in both Monette and in Cassville. Little cloud cover, everything moving from north to south throughout the course of our morning. Tried to squeeze a few snowflakes out in our far northern counties. Didn't amount to anything. A little bit of snow here, making from the other side of Rolla up towards St. Louis. But it's about what we had yesterday, just with the very, very light flurries. Majority of this system now moving up through the Ohio River Valley. And a mess is what they're going to have on the East Coast here by the time we get into the weekend. Look at all the watches and warnings that they have. Well, luckily, we're going to skirt out of here all right. So we'll go 40 today. Like I said, just a tad touchdown from yesterday, but a great looking weekend. Sunny skies and temps in the 50 to finish off the month of January and open up February. That's where it gets a little interesting. Look at that Wednesday and Thursday panel. We got 20s and a chance for a little bit of freezing rain and snow. That'll be our concentration next week. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Instapoll and our Something to Talk About. Earlier, we introduced you to what's become an all too familiar story: staffing shortages nationwide. And the school district in Neosho, Missouri, well, they came up with an idea. They're going to implement a new program to help with their own shortages. KOAM's Bronte Saratsky shows us how a new program for high school students aims to help while giving students workforce experience.
The Neosho School District is unfortunately no stranger to staffing shortages.
We started losing staff members. We've stayed understaffed in our custodial department.
This lack of staffing, specifically in the custodial department, has made it harder for the district's custodial team to keep the district clean, something that's become even more important during the pandemic.
Well, it just makes it harder to get the schools clean and disinfected like they should be.
To remedy this issue, the district has launched a new program to get more staff members. Who would they be hiring?
Hiring students. I hope to have more hands to help get our schools clean and safe.
The idea to hire students isn't new. Multiple school districts across the country have been testing it out amid nationwide staffing shortages. Here's how it would work. All applicants would need to be Neosho High School students and would need to be at least 16 years old. They'd also need at least a 2.0 GPA and have reliable transportation. The district says they hope it can not only help with staffing, but also give students valuable work experience.
I think it's a win-win for our school system, and I think it's a win-win for our kids. Maybe we instill some work ethic in them where they are getting paid, and then we're cleaning our schools and keeping them good for our community, our students.
It would give students the chance to learn some new skills and alleviate the ongoing workforce shortage.
I'm really excited about this program, and our community's excited about it too. I have a lot of people approach me and ask me about it, and I've had a lot of positive comments on this new program.
In Neosho, Bronte Saratsky, KOAM News.
4 students have applied to the program. Coincidentally, the custodial team currently 4 people short. Our question for you this morning is, did you work while you attended school? We'll have your results a little later in the show. Be back with Healthwatch next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, a record 14.5 million Americans signed up for 2022 medical coverage through the healthcare marketplace. Increase in enrollment comes after President Biden's American Rescue Plan lowered cost for most marketplace consumers. Nearly 6 million people have new coverage under the administration, and it's not too late to sign up if you live in certain states. Enrollment remains open through January 31st in California, Kentucky, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and the District of Columbia. Consumers who did not select a plan by the deadline may still have an opportunity to enroll. Certain life changes and situations could qualify you for a special enrollment period. For more information, you can visit healthcare.gov. Gas stoves have a much more significant impact on climate change than previously thought. Scientists at Stanford University found the emissions from gas stoves in U.S. homes have the same climate warming impact as that of 500,000 gasoline-powered cars. That's far more than scientists previously estimated. The study estimates gas stoves leak up to 1.3% of methane into the atmosphere. Methane is the main component of natural gas and is a strong planet warmer. It escapes from stoves even when they're turned off. In addition, nitrogen oxides, a byproduct of burning natural gas, are also released, which can lead to respiratory illness. And in some homes, the concentration of harmful nitrogen oxides can reach unhealthy limits within a few minutes. U.S. is moving towards a future when COVID-19 is no longer a crisis, but rather something to protect against and treat. That's the vision outlined by White House officials, but health experts caution we're not there yet. Mandy Gaither has more on where the U.S. stands in the war against COVID-19.
It may be a light at the end of a dark tunnel.
I am more optimistic about the pandemic today than I have been since It was declared a pandemic nearly 2 years ago.
While COVID-19 deaths and hospitalizations are still high across the U.S., new cases seem to be receding in many states, down 20% overall. But not all states have reached their Omicron peak yet.
In another few weeks, the Omicron flash flood, not a wave, but a flash flood, will have largely passed.
But top U.S. health officials warn the U.S. is not there yet, with more than 600,000 cases and more than 2,300 deaths each day, according to Johns Hopkins University. The death rate 22% higher than a week ago, leaving officials to stress once again the best way to protect against the severe outcomes of COVID-19 is to get vaccinated and boosted.
If you are boosted, you are 68 times less likely to die than if you are unvaccinated.
As it stands now, only about a quarter of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated and boosted. About 1 million vaccine doses are being given out every day. Most are boosters, according to the CDC.
We do need to hang on for just a few more weeks until the Omicron flood recedes so we don't overwhelm the hospitals.
Top U.S. health officials say that while we do not know what will come after the Omicron variant, we're in better shape than we've been in the past, thanks in part to better testing, vaccinations, masking, and treatment capabilities. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Want a new Honda or quality?
Good morning, I'm Tanya Bach with your KOAM News Update. The city of Joplin hosts a public meeting to discuss contingency plans for reducing transit services if they do not have adequate staffing. There are 4 plans on the table that would reduce routes for MAPS or the trolley system. Thursday's meeting was not to choose a plan, it was just to answer any questions residents may have. You can find details about the plans on our website at koamnewsnow.com. Another school shortage brought on by the pandemic, not enough substitute teachers. It's become so dire, some schools have struggled to stay open. In Wichita, Kansas, a construction company is stepping in to help. The CEO of Hutton Construction says the plan is to give 5 extra PTO days to all 275 team members to use to sub or para in classrooms through the end of the year. Some employees are already excited about the opportunity and are getting started with the sub process. They'll get their regular salary pay on top of pay they earn while subbing. Here's Michael with today's forecast.
Good looking Friday as temperatures will be a little bit cooler than yesterday, but still high 30s, low 40s, and a lot of sunshine, and prepare for an excellent looking weekend. Mostly sunny skies and temps in the 50s at the end of January.
Coming up, a judge sentences 2 people for a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri.
A little bit cooler on our Friday forecast, but wait till we get to the weekend. We're going to get spoiled here at the end of January. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Joplin rolls out contingency plans just in case staffing shortages derail the city's transit services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip. Getting ready for the weekend forecast.
Yeah, it's going to be gorgeous, Tanya. Before we get there, we got some cloud cover that tried to move in from the north here on the Skywatch storm tracker and tried to squeeze out a snowflake or two. No, we won't even get the dusting that we did yesterday, and really here in the next half an hour it'll be a thing of the past. Up to 31 is what we're seeing in Shootout. It's remained the high point. Now we're starting to see our southern places drop. Miami and Grove down to 21 degrees. Joplin sits right there at 26. Not much of a wind chill in effect. It's relatively calm out there. We got up to 45 yesterday. We'll go high 30s, low 40s this afternoon. So just a touch bit cooler. Now with the clearing skies overnight, we are going to set up for a chilly Friday night and beginning of Saturday. But Saturday up into the 50s. Then we get to Sunday. Tanya, I want you to come with me on this one, all right? Look at this. Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff, Bengals versus Chiefs, Arrowhead Stadium. What do you think tickets are going for right now?
Too much.
Just under $500. Woo! I can get you one for just under $500. But no, Sunday's going to be absolutely glorious. Of course, you can catch that game right here on KOAM. And then right after that game, just flip on over and join us over on Fox 14 for the 49ers and Rams. No weather concerns, a little bit of wind coming off the Pacific. Tanya, what can I get you tickets for at SoFi Stadium for this game?
Probably more than that.
In between $600 to $700.
Jeez.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, sitting in the living room watching KOAM and Fox 14 sound like the ideal things to do. And, you know, Saturday, you got plenty of time to enjoy fresh air outside, Sunday morning as well. Now, next week gets a little interesting. That's why I want to be glass half full and talk about how great this weekend's going to be.
I got a big 300-inch screen I'm watching it on, so it'll feel like I'm there.
Okay, well, and also, too, you won't have to stand in line.
Yes. No lines. 41 may sound nice, but it's still cold.
Oh, yeah. I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm all for the indoors.
And I love Arrowhead to death, but especially once you get up in the elevated sections, that wind swirls up there.
Yeah, it does. Those tickets are probably still $500.
No, those are the ones I was talking about.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I was just trying to get you in the door.
Ouch. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, 2 of the 9 suspects in a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri learned their fate. A judge sentenced a 23-year-old Gary Hunter Jr. to 40 years in prison and 26-year-old Deanna Parks to 30 years. Both took plea deals in the murder case of Sarah Pascoe. Prosecutors say in 2020, Hunter and Parks, along with 7 other suspects, kidnapped Pascoe and a second woman, drove them to a well, and then shot them and left them for dead. Now, this is an image of that well. Pascoe was shot once in the head and died. Prosecutors say the second victim hid under Pascoe's body and pretended to be dead as Gary Hunter Jr. fired into the well. Authorities say that woman survived and was able to tell investigators where they could find Pascoe's body. Oklahoma executes a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda Michaela and Felicia Suzette Smith, so there'd be no witnesses to his robbery. Celia's sister spoke to the media after Thursday's execution.
There was a time when there was once doubt that justice would ever be served, and now there is none. And we can move forward. And the memories of the murder, the trial, and the years spent waiting can be replaced with happier memories of Brenda.
This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the third in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections last October. Before that, executions had been halted in Oklahoma for nearly 7 years. The city of Joplin hosts a public meeting to discuss contingency plans for reducing transit services if they do not have adequate staffing. There are 4 plans on the table that would reduce routes for MAPS or the trolley system. Thursday's meeting was not to choose a plan, it was just to answer any questions residents may have.
So, you know, thankfully at this point we aren't looking at we have to do any of these, but, you know, we are certainly close enough that we need to look ahead and see if something happened and we were to lose 1 or 2 more people due to, you know, whatever it is, even a day-to-day basis, how do we react to it so that we can still serve as many people as possible.
You can find details about the plans on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. 2 Southeast Kansas cities receive a share of $23 million in federal grants to increase public safety and healthcare access in the state. The Neosho Memorial Regional Medical Center will rebuild and repair 3 boiler units with a $175,000 grant. $35,500 grant for the Neodesha Police Department will fund new equipment and furniture for its new offices. The department's old offices were closed in 2016 due to the condition of the building. The officers are currently housed in City Hall until the completion of the new building in a few months. Missouri Governor Mike Parson calls for increased funding for higher education in the proposed state budget for next fiscal year. Some of that increased funding would go to Missouri Southern if the budget passed. One impact would be a $1.4 million increase for the school's core budget. It would also give the university $30 million for a health science innovation building.
Yeah, I think our campus community is very pleased and hopeful based on the governor's recommendations, both for the core budget increase and the one-time funds, including for capital.
The budget would also provide more than $700,000 for a proposed Center for Digital Media and Virtual Production. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Haven't quite made it up to the freezing point as of yet. A whole bunch of mid to high 20s unless you get down to the south. Then we've still got some low 20s here. We'll hit sunrise about 7:25. And then after that, a little bit of a bump up. Still cooler than what we had yesterday. High 30s. We'll throw a 40 in there every now and then. Overnight, mostly clear skies. Going to also have that wind shift on us. That's a good thing, though, because what that means is once it comes in from the south on Saturday and Sunday, warms us all the way back up into the mid-50s. Now, with the weekend on its way, kids are looking forward to, a nice 4-state end of January weekend. But there are also those kids that have decided, yeah, I need gainful employment. Great story coming out of Neosho. They put together almost an apprenticeship program, and they're offering students that meet certain requirements the ability to help their cleaning staff. And that is a subject of our Something to Talk About, employment while attending school. And our question to you specifically is, did you work while you attended school? And we didn't necessarily say high school or college, didn't matter when, we just said school. Right now, 82% of you say, yeah, I did have a job when I was in school. And you can connect with us each and every morning. You can either go to our Facebook page, KOAM News Now, or directly to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. And there's the QR code. Just snap a picture of that on your camera, on your phone. It will deliver it. I now present the question to you, Ms. Bach.
Oh, did I ever? I was always working. Of course, I wanted a car, so that helped. But that was in high school. I started working back in junior high. Our school had a program where a lot of families were on the bubble of, not qualifying for free or reduced lunches, but yet when you have 4 kids in the household, it gets expensive to pay for school lunches. So they allowed 7th and 8th graders to wash dishes and eat for free.
Nice.
So my entire 8th grade year, every day I washed dishes and ate for free.
So while situations were different, because Neosho's struggling with staff shortages because of the pandemic, a very similar program that you grew up with.
Yeah, that was 3 extra staff members they didn't need to wash dishes.
Exactly.
Alleviated a lot, so yeah. What about you?
Oh yeah. Ever since I was 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. When I was a sophomore, I started working for the Hodgman County District Attorney in Kansas, typing dictations and basically working as a legal secretary and learning how the court system worked and stuff.
That's cool.
That was fun. A lot of fun. After school job. Yep. All right. Thanks, Michael. That's a look at today's top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. Auto fatalities have steadily dropped in this country, but those numbers are back on the rise. Now the federal government has a plan to keep Americans safe and a goal of 0 deaths. Plus, as the crisis on the Ukrainian border continues to simmer, the United States and its allies prepare for a Russian invasion. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Thank you, 4 states, for voting.
Running.
Topping World Watch, some of Canada's Olympic athletes arrived in Beijing, China. The games kick off February 4th and run through the 20th. Per Canadian Olympic Committee guidelines, every athlete must be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 in order to compete. And Olympic organizers mandate that athletes must supply 2 negative tests within 96 hours of boarding the plane, plus 1 more upon arrival in China. Canadian Olympic contingent had its own check-in counter at the airport, and their departure gate was cordoned off from the general public. Athletes wore N95 masks on board the chartered plane. Any athletes who test positive in Beijing will be sent either directly to a hospital or quarantine center, depending on symptoms. And American athletes depart from Los Angeles on Thursday, also bound for the Beijing Winter Olympics. Ahead of the games, athletes expressed anxiety about COVID-19. They're doing everything they can to avoid contracting the virus, as a clean bill of health is crucial to their participation. Athletes must record 2 negative tests before leaving for Beijing, and once they get there, they're subject to daily tests. At last year's Summer Olympics in Tokyo, 41 athletes tested positive for COVID-19, many of whom subsequently had to withdraw from competing. Well, President Biden spoke with Ukraine's leader on Thursday. The White House press office says the president reaffirmed the readiness of the U.S. and its allies, quote, to respond decisively if Russia invades Ukraine. And the Kremlin says the U.S. response to its security demands leaves little ground for optimism. But dialogue is still possible. This as Russia and the West continue to prepare for a shooting war over Ukraine. Officials in the former Soviet Republic are now readying Cold War-era bomb shelters in case of attacks from the air. Benjamin Hall has the latest.
US fighter jets have moved to Estonia and Russian fighter jets to Belarus as the noose tightens on Ukraine.
We've continued to see the accumulation of combat power.
Now residents in Kiev are bracing for possible Russian airstrikes, opening up Soviet-era bomb shelters in preparation. Senior Foreign Affairs correspondent Greg Palcott visited one of the 5,000.
This is just one of several bomb shelters in this apartment complex in northern Kyiv. In the event of an invasion, this is home. It's a little bit rough.
This bomb shelter is said to handle about 60 people. It has electricity and will soon be stocked with food, water, medical supplies. But not much more than that. Despite the fears inside Ukraine, though, the State Department hopes Putin will choose the path of diplomacy.
We hope he will see here a real opportunity for a legacy of security and arms control rather than a legacy of war.
But it wasn't long after Ambassador Sullivan delivered the US response to the Russian Foreign Ministry yesterday that Moscow said it wasn't satisfied and that there were few reasons for optimism.
Ukraine has become a toy in the hands of NATO.
NATO is also trying to show a more unified front. The German foreign minister giving the clearest sign yet that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which gives Russia huge control over European gas supplies, would be sanctioned in the event of an invasion.
The full range of our responses will be available, including Nord Stream 2.
But others believe Nord Stream 2 should be stopped now.
I do think that now would be a very, very good time to go ahead and reimpose the sanctions on the Nord Stream pipeline. That should get the Germans' attention if it doesn't get Vladimir Putin's attention.
In the last few years, gas prices have soared to record highs, filling Russia's coffers. US oil imports from Russia also soaring at a 10-year high. Germany has also been criticised for refusing to send weapons to Ukraine. It has a long-standing policy not to send weapons to war zones. Instead, it has sent a field hospital and helmets. The mayor of Kiev calling the helmets a joke, adding, "What next? Pillows?"
President Biden will host the new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz at the White House next month. First meeting between the two leaders since Scholz took office. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Scott with Windows Phone.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. On Thursday, Oklahoma executed a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda Massilia and Felicia Suzette Smith so there'd be no witnesses to his robbery. Massilia's sister spoke to the media after Thursday's execution. This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the third in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections in October. Some employees are already excited about the opportunity and are getting started with the substitution process. They're going to get their regular salary, these construction workers in Wichita, as they substitute to help while they're subbing. Another school shortage brought on the pandemic. Now, Wichita Construction Company is stepping in to help. The CEO of Hutton Construction says the plan is to give 5 extra PTO days to all 275 team members to use to sub or para in classrooms through the end of the year. Staff shortages have led to a new way for Neosho High School students to get a jump start on their resume. The Neosho School District is rolling out a new program that will allow students to apply to become a part of their custodial staff. Students will be able to work up to 19 hours a week. David Allen, the school's custodial supervisor for the school district, says the shortage of custodial staff has impacted its ability to clean the schools properly. So far, 4 students have applied to the program. The custodial team is currently 4 people short. And Missouri Governor Mike Parson is calling for increased funding for higher education in the proposed state budget for the next fiscal year. Some of that increased funding would go to Missouri Southern if the budget passes. One impact would be a $1.4 million increase for the school's core budget. It would also give the university $30 million for a health science innovation building. The budget would also provide more than $700,000 for a proposed center for digital media and virtual production. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Lows of 23 for northeast Oklahoma, a high of 31 in Shootout, southeast Kansas, and southwest Mo, ranging about from 24 to 28. So it's a little bit chilly when you walk outside there. We'll dispatch of that cloud cover. It's currently moving from north down to the southeast, so we get some sunshine later on today. Temperatures going to top out, say mid-30s. We'll throw up a high 30, if not a 40, every now and then, but it won't be widespread. Just a delightful weekend, though. End of January, and we're talking about mid-50s for Saturday and Sunday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Dear Winter, my squad of Toyota. Let's go places.
For almost 30 years, deaths from car crashes steadily dropped in this country. But recently, that number has been on the rise, taking the lives of drivers, passengers, and pedestrians. Now the federal government has a new plan to keep Americans safe. Michael George reports.
This is a national crisis.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says U.S. roads are becoming deadlier. Preliminary data shows more than 20,000 people died in car crashes during the first 6 months of 2021. That would be the largest number since 2006. The number of pedestrians killed is also on the rise.
As people drove at higher speeds, more recklessly, more distracted, it is disproportionately impacting some Americans more than others. People of color, Native Americans, low-income communities.
In an effort to lower deaths, Buttigieg is releasing a new national roadway safety strategy. It includes rethinking speed limits and studying greater use of speed cameras. There's also $6 billion in grants for safer road designs, including bike lanes, better lighting, and crosswalks. Some of those designs have already taken place in several cities, including here in Hoboken, New Jersey.
We've increased the time during which pedestrians can cross the street.
Mayor Ravi Balla says there are also dedicated lanes to protect bikers and curb extensions that protect pedestrians and allow traffic to flow better.
In the last 4 consecutive years, we're one of the only few cities in the country to have 0 traffic-related deaths.
Our goal is 0 deaths.
Buttigieg says getting there will also require automakers to make safety features like auto braking available in more cars. Now, one part of a comprehensive plan designed to make U.S. roads safer. We'll be back with another look at your forecast when we return.
Sunday.
Now, while most of our temperatures are hanging in the mid-20s, there's not a huge difference here between the temperatures and the wind chill. We are seeing some 16s up in Yates Center, but for the most part, everywhere from about 18 to 21 is what we're talking about. When you step out the door, it's what it feels like. This afternoon, it is going to be cooler than yesterday. We'll go high 30s, low 40s. We'll be sunny though. It'll be a nice afternoon for sure. And if you want a little bit of a warm-up, this is hard to believe we're talking about the end of January, but Saturday and Sunday are throwing mid-50s at us. Now, we'll break down the weekend when we come back right after this.
Coming up, a judge sentences 2 people for a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri.
Friday forecast going to bring us a little bit of a cool down, but do we have just a gorgeous weekend in store. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Joplin rolls out contingency plans just in case staffing shortages derail the city's transit services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll have those stories and much more, including details on a school district banning a book about the Holocaust. First, let's check in with Michael with a look at the weekend forecast.
All right, Tanya, we've got another participant. We just had one. Yates Center's bebopping back and forth. It was just up at 30 degrees right there. I was going to say it joined Shootout, and then as soon as Tanya tossed it to me, it goes right back down. But that's the great thing about our technology here and how instantaneously it updates. 26 in Joplin, 29 in the Berg. Let's roll 25 along I-44 out by Monette. Now, the Skywatch storm tracker with some cloud cover that moved in from the north. They tried to spit a couple snowflakes before it got to us, but that's about the equivocation of it. It's not even going to be the dusting that we received a couple days ago. Future track will show you we clear off for the afternoon. afternoon. Temperatures going to be kind of stuck in the mid to high 30s. We'll see a 40 if you work out to the west and get the sunshine earlier than what we'll see for the central and eastern portion of the 4 states. But then as we get to Saturday, we are looking at temperatures that are going to be up into the 50s for a January weekend. Saturday is gorgeous. Why stop there? What about Sunday? Well, Sunday is going to be a little bit busy for you Chiefs fans. So Sunday morning, looking great. I'd get out, I'd get some fresh air and get ready for a 2 o'clock kickoff between the Bengals and Chiefs that you can see right here on KOAM. Chiefs instilled right now as a 7-point favorite, and then as soon as that game is over, and obviously no weather concerns at Arrowhead, as soon as that game's over, we'll transition over to Fox 14 on the West Coast for the 49ers and Rams that kick off at 5:30. Rams right now a 3.5-point favorite. No weather worries out on the West Coast because it never rains in Southern California. You will see I've isolated this to 10 plus miles per hour. So you do get a little breeze coming in off the Pacific right there, blowing right through LA. I want to talk about these happy things, Tanya, because when we start February, it's going to get a tad bit interesting. We're going to start off February with great temperatures, and then we not only have possibility for some thunderstorms, we've got a massive Canadian cold front with still moist air up there. We're going to get some wintry precipitation. Wednesday into Thursday. So, 50s, football, Chiefs Kingdom.
Well, you can't complain about that, that's for sure.
There, see?
I'm not going to anyway. It's going to be beautiful.
There you go.
All right, thanks, Michael. 2 of the 9 suspects in a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri find out how long they will be behind bars. A judge sentenced 23-year-old Gary Hunter Jr. to 40 years in prison and 26-year-old Deanna Parks to 30 years. Both took plea deals in the murder case of Sarah Pascoe. Prosecutors say in 2020, Hunter and Parks, along with 7 other suspects, kidnapped Pascoe and a second woman and drove them to a well where they shot the women and left them for dead. Now, this is an image of the well where the shooting happened. Pascoe was shot once in the head and died. Prosecutors say the second victim had hid under Pascoe's body and pretended to be dead as Gary Hunter Jr. fired into the well. That woman survived and was able to tell investigators where they could find Pascoe's body. Oklahoma executes a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery that happened in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda Massilia and Felicia Suzette Smith to eliminate witnesses to his robbery. Massilia's sister spoke to the media after Thursday's execution.
A time when there was once doubt that justice would ever be served, and now there is none, and we can move forward. And the memories of the murder, the trial, and the years spent waiting can be replaced with happier memories of Brenda.
This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the third in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections in October. Before that, executions had been halted in Oklahoma for nearly 7 years. City of Joplin hosts a public meeting to discuss contingency plans for reducing transportation services if it does not have adequate staffing. There are 4 plans on the table that would reduce routes for maps or the trolley system. Thursday's meeting was not to choose a plan, but to answer any questions residents may have.
So, thankfully at this point, we aren't looking at we have to do any of these, but, we are certainly close enough that we need to look ahead and see if something happened and we were to lose 1 or 2 more people due to, whatever it is, even a day-to-day basis, how do we react to it so that we can still serve as many people as possible?
You can find details about the plans on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. 2 Southeast Kansas cities receive a share of $23 million in federal grants to increase public safety and healthcare access in the state. The Neosho Memorial Regional Medical Center in Shootout will rebuild and repair 3 boiler units with a $175,000 grant. There's also a $35,500 grant for the Neodesha Police Department to buy new equipment and furniture for its offices. The department's old offices were closed in 2016 due to the condition of the building. Officers are currently housed in City Hall until the completion of the new building in a few months. Missouri Governor Mike Parson calls for increased funding for higher education in the proposed state budget for the next fiscal year. Some of that increased funding would go to Missouri Southern if the budget passed. It would give the university $30 million for a health science innovation building. It would also provide a $1.4 million increase for the school's core budget. The university calls the proposal encouraging, but points out it's just the first step in a 5-month legislative process. Staff shortages lead to a new way for high school students to get a jump start on their resume. The school district in Neosho, Missouri is rolling out a new program allowing students to apply to become a part of their custodial staff. Students will be able to work up to 19 hours a week. The district custodial supervisor says the staff shortage has impacted its ability to clean the schools properly.
Well, it just makes it harder to get the schools clean and disinfected like they should be. But with this new program on hiring students, I hope to have more hands to help get our schools clean and safe.
So far, 4 students have applied to the program, and it so happens the custodial team is currently 4 people short. Convenient. Another school shortage brought on the pandemic, not enough substitute teachers. It's become so dire, some schools have struggled to stay open. In Wichita, a construction company is stepping in to help. The CEO of Hutton Construction says the plan is to give 5 extra PTO days to all 275 team members to use to sub or para in classrooms through the end of the year.
Our schools were just having a really hard time keeping teachers in the classroom, and we thought that maybe that's something that we could help with.
Some employees say they're excited about the opportunity and have already started with the sub process. They'll receive their regular salary on top of pay they earn while in the classroom. Well, 36 years ago today, most of the nation was glued to their televisions to watch a historic space shuttle launch, a launch that would end in one of NASA's worst disasters. The Challenger space shuttle broke apart 73 seconds after liftoff, exploding on its way to space, killing all 7 astronauts on board. One of the crew members was Krista McCullough, a high school teacher picked from 11,000 applicants for NASA's inaugural First Teacher program. It marked the first time NASA had lost astronauts in flight. The next shuttle launch would not take place for another 32 months.
Tanya, while thinking about that, and I was talking with Ron, our producer there, everybody remembers exactly where they were. If you're old enough to remember, everybody remembers. I can tell you the couch I was sitting on. That was also back at a point in time where, remember, we were putting 12 to 16 launches a year.
Yeah.
And I look at our kids' ages now, and they're like, "What is this space shuttle thing you speak of?"
Well, it was the great space race, you know. It was a big deal.
Yeah, but it's amazing how that, like, the pause that disaster created as far as launches went. All right, 40s today. I'm really going to back off that. You're going to see a 40 scattered in there every now and then. For the most part, it's going to be high 30s. Nice sunshine, though, and a great-looking weekend ahead with 54 and 53 on Saturday and Sunday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, a street camera captures a suspect firing on police officers after a car chase. We'll take a look. Plus, the nation's high court prepares for the White House decision to follow Stephen Breyer's footsteps as to who dons the robe. That's coming up next. And later, a new test on the horizon determining your chances of long-term COVID effects. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Men, do you feel like you've lost your zip? We may be able to help your activity by providing hormone replacement at Oswego Drug Store. To learn more, call.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, 3 officers are shot after a chase and a shootout in Houston, Texas. The 3 officers are in stable condition. The suspect stole a car, took police on a high-speed chase, and then barricaded himself in a house for hours before finally surrendering. Police chief says it's possible the suspect fired more than 50 rounds at officers and said he was using a fully automatic weapon. A school board in Tennessee bans an award-winning graphic novel about the Holocaust. The board says the decision was made because the book, Moss, contains an image of a nude, human-like mouse, depicts violence, and cites language as a concern. The vote release It voted and released the statement yesterday, which happened to be International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Pushback is coming in from across the country, including from the author, Art Spiegelman. He calls the decision baffling and myopic and says he based the novel on his own family's experience. Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer made it official yesterday. He will retire at the end of the court's term this summer. President Biden renewed his campaign promise to nominate the first black woman. Bradley Blackburn has details on some of the frontrunners.
I will select a nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency.
President Biden says he will choose a Supreme Court nominee to replace Justice Stephen Breyer by the end of February.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
At the White House yesterday, Justice Breyer spoke about the American experiment.
My grandchildren and their children. They'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I am an optimist, and I'm pretty sure it will.
The frontrunner to replace Justice Breyer is Federal Appeals Court Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who once clerked for Breyer and spoke about the experience in 2017.
It was an incredible experience just to be in the room while the justice grappled with some of the most difficult and consequential legal issues of the day.
Another candidate is Judge J. Michelle Childs, a favorite of South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn.
She has what I call the kind of background and experiences that we ought to have.
It's unclear if Republicans will support any nominee, though they are powerless to block the confirmation if all 50 Democrats vote yes.
I'm going to give the president's nominee, whoever that may be, a fair look.
Breyer says he'll stay on the bench until the end of the court's current term this summer. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
A third possible candidate is California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. She was placed on the court with the help of the then California Attorney General Kamala Harris. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. We have a special guest joining us in studio, Michael Cortez. And Miss Cortez, Principal Cortez, yes, I should say, she is the principal of St. Anne's Catholic School in Carthage. Principal, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yes, sir.
And we're here because we're celebrating National Catholic Schools Week.
Yes.
And this is, for those of you that may not be aware, this is the 48th year that this has taken part. For somebody that may not be familiar with it, and for somebody who leads a Catholic school, how do you describe what this week means?
So the national organization gives us a different theme for every day. So there's celebration of community, celebration of students, celebration of teachers, celebration of vocations, which is, we're called to be a vocation of a married couple or a priest or a sister. And so there's a vocation day, there's nation. So it's just different how the Holy Spirit and Christ works in our life in each of those little pods and how we nurture that within our students.
You guys have such a tight-knit community in Carthage, such a tight-knit school. This is your 4th year?
Yes.
In your 4 years, how have you seen the community and your school community rally around St. Anne's when it comes to Catholic Schools Week?
The parish, the members of the parish, our mission is that we are educating Christ's youngest disciples through love and service through Christ. And that is our big thing. It's just educating them in not only reading, writing, and arithmetic, but who they are as a person, and what God gives us. And the parish really takes, they really take control of nurturing that. They go to church with us. They pray with us. They donate things. They're really good with our auction every year. They really support our auction. So it's wonderful to see that outside of that the parish is the school and the school is the parish, and it's one unit.
You talked about the daily themes coming up next week as we go through Catholic Schools Week, and I want to touch on a number of them because maybe you can tell me about the events that you have planned and kind of what it means to the kids. I want to talk about the kids in particular first off, because we have a celebration of students, and we have a celebration of community. How does St. Anne's handle those days?
So the Day of Community, the Day of Community, the big thing we do on the Day of Community is we hold a baby shower.
Yeah.
So we do a baby shower, and all the kids bring a baby shower item, and we do some baby shower games, and then all the kids open up the presents, and we donate those to Life Choices.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a really fun thing. The kids really like it, and they like bringing the gifts, and they're all wrapped, and then we just open up all the gifts, and they show the gifts, and then we donate all that to Life Choices.
And then when it comes to, I think Wednesday is celebrating students.
Tuesday is
celebrating
yes,
students. Forgive me. So when it comes to celebrating students, how do you and your staff rally around that to show the students how much you appreciate them?
Okay, so we have an organization. Schmidt and Associates always buys lunch for them that day, so they'll get a pizza party. And then we have a program in the school called House, and it's a community building where the kids are K through 6 together, and they each of those houses has a saint name in front of it. So we take that characterization of that saint, and I can't even think of what they are right now, but righteousness, for example, and the teachers will vote on 3 kids within the school that exhibit those qualities, and then we do an assembly, and we reward those kids with little keychains of that saint, and it's just a celebration to really show them like these gifts that Christ has given you. You know, you're exuding them, and it stands out.
Now I want to jump to Friday.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm really excited about
Friday. So Friday's when you appreciate your teachers, your staff.
No, it's Nation.
Nation.
Yes.
Which one's teachers and staff? I want to
Teachers and staff is Wednesdays.
Wednesday. Okay. So I want to ask you about this.
Okay.
You're in a leadership role.
Yes.
You acknowledge firsthand how difficult it's been for these educators, not only the educators, but your entire staff.
Right. Yes.
Do the kids have an appreciation? Do you emphasize that?
Usually I usually kind of do a sneaky thing, but I usually have the kids, I go into the classrooms and I kind of relieve the teachers, and I have the kids write notes to the teachers and appreciation, you know, and some of them are like, you know, thanks for giving me a cookie one day, but then some are like, thank you for that, and so we
really heartfelt.
Yes. Our kids are very emotional, and it's a very family atmosphere, which is why I love it. And we had one of our teachers lose both of her parents this year. And we have a teacher who just lost his father-in-law this week. And, you know, they draw them pictures, and we love you, and we're praying for you. And it's, the kids love the teachers more than I've ever seen in any school I've been in. There's just a great love.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
I know you want to talk about the celebration for the nation.
Yes.
And I also want to talk about, you said this is near and dear to your heart and a commitment. Can I get you to stick around?
Yes, of course.
All right. Principal Cortez and I are going to delve in and get those answers. And folks, you're not going to want to miss hearing the rest of her story when we're over on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Principal Cortez, number one, I appreciate your time right now.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing you in a bit.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
Thanks.
ma'am. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
They're adults. I'm moving on. Too bad, so sad. But they're behaving.
You need to grow up and calm down.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, the Biden administration's COVID vaccine mandate for healthcare workers is now in effect. Researchers are looking into a blood test that could eventually help scientists determine a person's risk for long-term COVID effects. Jed Bull talked to a recovering COVID patient about what this could mean in the long run.
Days now, I feel 90 to 95% better.
Lisa O'Brien is one of Utah's first long haulers, experiencing strange symptoms since March 2020.
Once or twice a week, I'll wake up and feel like this really weird surge or like internal vibrations in my chest area. My lips will kind of vibrate or tingle when I eat certain foods.
She occasionally still feels fatigued, but she is no longer losing clumps of hair or experiencing drastic fluctuations in her heart rate.
However, I am one of the lucky ones because I have a lot of friends who are 2 years into this now, and they have not improved as much as I have.
She met those friends on the Utah Long Haulers Facebook group, which she started in June 2020. 4,000 members now.
You know, I've got some friends that have been out of work for 2 years. And it's changed their lives because the symptoms are so debilitating.
New research finds that people who develop long COVID have lower levels of certain antibodies in their blood shortly after infection.
This was a pretty well done study. They looked at about 175 patients with COVID and followed them over a year.
Researchers watched their symptoms, developed a scoring system, and tried to predict from their immune responses who would develop post-COVID symptoms.
They felt like it was about 75% effective at predicting who is going to have persistent symptoms.
If they can validate these findings with more patients, that could help with treatments.
You can target potentially therapies earlier or identify those patients for research long term. So I think that's how this could potentially help if it was validated.
And potentially enable scientists to develop a blood test.
I think if, they can uncover the why, why are some people ending up like this, then that can lead us to the how do we treat this?
Dr. Brown says about 30% of those with COVID-19 could experience persistent symptoms. That's a look at one of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
The Spigarelli 5 years.
Coming up, a judge sentences 2 people for a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri.
It's a Friday forecast and a weather trend that's a little bit cooler than yesterday, but at the same point in time, still plenty of sunshine. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Joplin rolls out contingency plans just in case staffing shortages derail their transit services.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll have those stories on the way and why your mobile device may become obsolete in the near future because of the introduction of 5G. But first, let's check in with Michael with a look at our Friday forecast.
All right, Tanya, really anywhere from about 23 to 30 is where we stand. The big difference we've had here in the past 90 minutes is what we've experienced down along and south of I-44. These temperatures were as low as 21 degrees. Now we're looking at Miami at 28, Neosho's bumping up to 26. And now just on the other side, we've got Joplin that's been stagnant at 26, and it's actually been a little bit higher up to the north where 28s are in Fort Scott and Nevada and Shootout at 30. Cloud covers moving in from the northwest, but tracking off to the southeast. So after we get past sunrise at 7:25, we'll have gradually clearing skies and a lot of afternoon sunshine as a matter of fact. But what do clear skies do overnight? Also cool us off quite a bit. I guess the positive aspect is the wind is going to shift yet again. That seems to be our theme this week. What way is the wind coming in from? And as long as it comes in from the south on Saturday and Sunday, which is exactly what it will do, we'll have temperatures up into the mid-50s for our last weekend of January. Now that sounds a little bizarre, but Mother Nature's going to figure things out and make sure we get even because our first week of February has a massive cold front and some wintry precipitation.
All right, well, we'll deal with that when it comes, but for now, let's enjoy the weekend. Well, 2 of the 9 suspects in a 2020 murder in Lawrence County, Missouri find out how long they will be behind bars. A judge sentenced 23-year-old Gary Hunter Jr. to 40 years in prison, 26-year-old Deanna Parks to 30 years. Both took plea deals in the murder case of Sarah Pascoe. Prosecutors say in 2020, Hunter and Parks, along with 7 other suspects, kidnapped Pascoe and a second woman and drove them to a well where they shot the women and left them for dead. Now, this is the well where the shooting happened. Pascoe was shot once in the head and died. Prosecutors say the second victim hid under Pascoe's body, pretended to be dead as Gary Hunter Jr. fired into the well. That woman survived and was able to tell investigators where they could find Pascoe's body. Oklahoma executes a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery that happened in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda McElia and Felicia Suzette Smith to eliminate witnesses to his robbery. This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the third in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections in October. Before that, executions had been halted in Oklahoma for nearly 7 years. Missouri Governor Mike Parson calls for increased funding for higher education in the proposed state budget for the next fiscal year. Some of that increased funding would go to Missouri Southern if the budget is passed. It would give the university $30 million for a health science and innovation building. It would also provide a $1.4 million increase for the school's core budget. Well, on this day in 1973, a ceasefire officially went into effect in the Vietnam War. This happened a day after the signing of the Paris Peace Accords by the United States, North Vietnam, and South Vietnam. The same day, the United States announced an end to the military draft. Although the U.S. combat mission officially ended in 1973, Vietnam War would not be over until April 1975.
With the fighting continuing up until the final minutes before the Paris Peace Accord was signed.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. Hard to say yes to the dress if it never shows up. Well, why the pandemic could be to blame. Plus, how 4 high schoolers are building on their resumes at a young age. We'll be right back.
The meat.
In Consumer Watch this morning, a warning about older cell phones that may be obsolete in the near future. Major cell phone carriers are boasting higher speeds thanks in part to the new 5G rollout, but they're also set to phase out 3G networks this year, meaning many older cell phones will become obsolete. No data, text, or calls, including to 911. Now, older cell phones, some car navigation and emergency services, home security systems, and even some medical devices like emergency alert pendants might be useless without taking action. If you have a 3G device, consider upgrading now or contact your providers. Here's some important deadlines to mark on your calendar. AT&T shuts down 3G next month, T-Mobile by July, Verizon by the end of the year. Coming up on Fox 14 during the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to look at how this specifically affects older users and emergency responders. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is still wreaking havoc on almost every business worldwide, including the wedding industry. From shipping delays to increasing costs, Daryl Forges explains why future brides should plan early when it comes to their big day.
Dresses, smiles, tears, and laughter. Ah, yes. It's the sound of one of the most exciting moments for brides planning their weddings. While this future wife is all smiles, some haven't been so lucky.
The worst part of planning my wedding and leading up to my wedding was the wedding dress.
It took 2021 newlywed Chloe Buckle about 5 months to get her dress, about a month longer than she anticipated.
So I actually picked mine up 2 days before I had to fly out for my wedding.
Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, worker shortages have disrupted the supply chain, causing shipping delays and low product supply for several items, including wedding dresses.
It goes all the way back, right, to raw materials, raw material availability. COVID's had its impact worldwide.
The CEO of David's Bridal says his company is changing their supply chain method to keep up with the demand.
We front-loaded a lot of inventory production, a lot of purchases.
And with more couples getting married in the new year, bridal retailers like Winnie Couture are seeing a lot more say yes to the dress.
Now that it's a little more open and people are able to have their big weddings, we're definitely seeing a surge of brides coming in.
And because of this bridal boom, those delays could continue well into 2022, according to the National Bridal Retailers Association. The president of the association says before the pandemic, it would take 5 to 7 months for a bride to get a dress. Now she says she's seeing a 300% increase in shipping times.
The manufacturers and the designers that are creating these beautiful wedding dresses are experiencing supply chain issues.
While there are delays, bridal retailers say they're taking extra steps to make sure brides get their dresses on time and even early. But the advice for newly engaged brides is consistent.
Get out there early.
Right now, there's no time.
It's never too early to find the dress.
According to David's Bridal, an estimated 2.6 million weddings are going to take place this year, meaning that demand is just going to grow larger and larger. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, talking about going to school and going to work. We've heard about staffing shortages across the country for some time, especially when it comes to our nation's schools, and part of it comes from the pandemic, certainly. Well, 4 states were not immune to it. So the Neosho School District came up with a very unique way to address staffing shortages. they're now allowing high school students to apply to become part of their custodial staff. So this gives the students the opportunity to pad those resumes with real-world work experience. They get paid for their efforts, and they help keep the school clean and sanitized in the process. It's really a win-win for everyone. Interestingly enough, earlier we talked about the custodial crew at the staff at Neosho in the school district. They were short 4 workers. Through this program, they've had 4 students apply. It just seems like the stars are kind of aligning. Our question to you this morning is, did you work while you attended school? And right now, it's amazing the number, but it really doesn't surprise me. An overwhelming 93% of you said, yeah, I was able to hold down the job and also make sure that I got my responsibilities for school done. You can participate each and every morning. Connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM News Now. Go straight to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. You can also take a picture of our QR code, and that will deliver you to the poll each and every morning. We're going to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first, off to New York. Here's Gail.
I'm Gail King. Coming right up on CBS Mornings, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz join us to preview Sunday's NFL championship games. Plus, Nicole Kidman on her Golden Globe winning performance as Lucille Ball and how meeting her husband Keith Urban was the best thing that ever happened to her. I think he feels the same way too. That's coming right up on CBS Mornings.
Polar opposite.
We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Senior Airman David Lucelle. Cherokee, Kansas native, served in the U.S. Air Force. We're proud to salute Senior Airman David Lucelle, this morning's 4-state hero.
The birthday list begins with Pruitt Calvin Lauk, decked out in the Carhartt gear as he celebrates the big number 1. Pruitt Calvin, a special birthday wish from Grandma Jenny, Grandpa Dale, Aunt Emma, and Uncle Nathan.
All right. Harlan Spainhoward turning 3 years old this year. Look at that smile. What a cutie there. Harlan is in Bronson, Kansas.
Look at that bow, too. Love that. Rosalind Skaggs, she is celebrating her 3rd birthday. Is that a crown?
Yeah,
Tiara?
little princess crown.
Little tiara. Happy birthday, Miss Rosalind. She's in Iola.
I want to call it a unicorn crown because her shirt says Daddy's Little Unicorn.
I like it.
I like that. Happy birthday, Rosalind. And happy birthday going out to Maddie Jo Westerhold, who's now 4 years old. Looking cute there in the plaid. In Sheldon, Missouri, with love from Nene, Annie, Mom, Dad, Papa, and Nia.
Landon Birkinshay celebrating his 10th birthday and reminding us that eventually there will be warmer temperatures in which to dip our toe in the pool. He is now 10 years old. Landon, welcome to double digits, my friend. He's in Joplin.
You see in the background of that picture, that also reminds you of what happens when we get the warmer temps.
Yeah, I know.
The lawnmower.
Yes, that is, I know. I so miss it.
You miss it, okay. Well,
I miss mowing lawns. I love mowing lawns.
yeah. It's good exercise if you're walking. All right, our birthday list goes on with Heidi Kane. Something else that's fun to do when it's warm out. Riding horses. Heidi is in Richards, Missouri. Her birthday was actually yesterday.
Look who's a teenager. Brooklyn Lockmiller, now 13 years old. She's a 7th grader at Pittsburgh Community Middle School. So I want everybody that sees Miss Brooklyn today to wish her a happy 13th birthday.
All right, Malia Ludwig celebrating birthday number 14. Of course, if Malia is celebrating, then so is Alexia. The Ludwig twins in Parsons. Birthday wishes coming from Nanny and Papa.
Out to Joplin, Kyler Dreiling, getting ready for a little Sunday action for some Chiefs football. And Kyler, may you get your birthday wish. I'm sure one of those would be a Chiefs win. Happy birthday in Joplin.
All right, Jessica DeWitt. Happy birthday from Mom, Clint, and Rowan, turning 27 years old this year.
Chastity Ashworth is celebrating her 31st birthday. Chastity, birthday wishes come from love from Mom and from Scott.
All right. Ann Keller celebrating birthday number 39 this year in McCune. Love, Dad. Happy birthday, Ann.
And we've got Mr. Mike Shapel celebrating his 52nd birthday. Mike, have a great day. He is in Fort Scott.
All right, in Pittsburgh, Cheryl Harvey celebrating a year. What a great picture.
Miss Cheryl, miss you. Lots of love from the Hayslip family. Ron Trim, he has a birthday. Mr. Trim is in Thayer, so we may have a trip to Big Ed's.
All right.
That just may be in store for a birthday supper.
Sounds like a plan.
Happy birthday, Ron.
All right, our list goes on. In Crestline, Randy Alsup turns 64 years old.
Happy birthday, Mr. Alsup.
And RJ Schmidt, birthday was yesterday. Mom wanted to make sure you get extra special birthday love over the weekend as well.
And a happy birthday and happy anniversary to all on this January the 28th. Perhaps you're celebrating on the 29th as well. That's where you can send them into birthdays at KOAMTV.com. You can also go to our website, KOAMNewsNow.com. Speaking of our website, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. Once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses and be eligible for prizes. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Now, we've talked about a number of shortages related to the pandemic. Earlier, we talked about Neosho School District having a staffing shortage. Tanya told us there's a supply chain holdup for wedding dresses. And now, a favorite winter pastime, also falling victim to it. There are snowmobile shortages, and not just snowmobiles. Think about motorbikes and ATVs, SUVs, they're out. We're gonna find out exactly why and how far behind these deliveries are. We're gonna have that and more when you flip on over to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Let's take a live look over 7th and Rangeline, where we're off to a chilly start, 26 degrees. Not a whole lot of difference between our temperature and our wind chill right now. Still holding on to 30 in Chanute. We've seen a huge bounce back in the southern portion, where earlier it got as low as 21 along and south of I-44. Now we've got Anderson up to 28 along with Miami. And then throughout southwest Missouri, it's been pretty constant with the mid-20s. Skywatch storm tracker, the cloud cover moving from the northwest down to the southeast. So it's not a whole lot of sunshine early. We'll be fine this afternoon. A little bit of snow that it tried to spit out up to the north, not even going to really equal what we got the other morning. So no worries travel-wise. I tell you what is going to be worrisome travel-wise, this low-pressure system. You've almost got double-barrel action here. You've got this one that's moving through the Ohio River Valley. You've got a big low-pressure system that's beginning to develop off the mid-Atlantic coast right there, and this thing is going to move through from today into the weekend. They've got millions of people right now that are in the midst of watches and warnings, and look at this. It stretches from South Florida all the way to Maine, and as a matter of fact, even off the coast, they've got some gale warning. They're expecting hurricane force winds with this storm system that's going to move through. So for us here in the 4 states, nice and calm. We'll get a little north wind that'll pick up to about 15 miles per hour. But sunshine later on this afternoon and highs, so let's go mid-30s and throw up a 40 every now and then. Not a whole lot of 40s on the board. But overnight, we clear off, and that sets us up for just delightful end of January weather. Who would have thought we'd be talking about the 50s for the last weekend of January? Well, enjoy it, because we look on the right-hand side and we see February creeping in. We've got a massive cold front and a chance for some wintry precipitation, especially for Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. On Thursday, Oklahoma executed a man for killing 2 hotel workers during a robbery in 2001. A small group of people gathered to protest the execution outside the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAllister. Authorities say the now 46-year-old Donald Grant killed Brenda Michaelia and Felicia Suzette Smith. This was the first execution in the U.S. in 2022 and the third in Oklahoma since the state resumed lethal injections in October. Staff shortages have led to a new way for Neosho High School students to get a jump start on their resume. The Neosho School District is rolling out a new program that will allow students to apply to become a part of their custodial staff. Students will be able to work up to 19 hours a week if they meet certain requirements. So far, 4 students have applied to the program, and in fact, the custodial team is currently 4 people short. Another school shortage brought on by the pandemic. Not enough substitute teachers. It's become so dire, some schools have struggled to stay open. In Wichita, a construction company is stepping in to help. The CEO of Hutton Construction says the plan is to give 5 extra PTO days to all 275 team members to use to sub or para in classrooms through the end of the year. And the city of Joplin hosts a public meeting to discuss contingency plans for reducing transit services if they don't have adequate staffing. There are 4 plans on the table that would reduce routes for MAPS or the trolley system. Thursday's meeting was not to choose a plan. It was just to answer any questions residents may have. And that's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
We've got wind chills right now in the high teens, low 20s. Actual temperatures about mid 20s. Kick in with some sunshine. We'll go a high today, close to 40 degrees. And remember, a great looking weekend ahead. We're going to have the wind shift on us, and we're going to make it up into the 50s for both Saturday and Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, don't forget, Chiefs-Bengals kick off at 2 o'clock right here on KOAM.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, the latest on the East Coast storm, leaving millions of people in the middle of severe weather watches and warnings.
Of course, your morning news continues on KOAM. We've got the CBS Morning News coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues.
We've not only been talking about massive shortages left by the supply chain, but also, too, this morning marking a milestone as far as what we've got for COVID vaccines. For those of you that don't know, the mandate started at midnight. Ooh. If you want more details on that, flip on over. We'll see you on Fox 14. That wraps it up for this edition of the KOAM Morning News. Have a great, safe weekend. Enjoy some football. Do me a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again on Monday morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.
At Affordable Dentures and Implants, that moment when we see a patient smile is everything to us.
And 4-H prepares a generation to create the commerce of tomorrow. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.